Eagle, go for landing, over. Roger, understand, go for landing. Eagle looking great. Houston, the Eagle has landed.
What time is it?
5:30, sir.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Storytellers. Today, my special guest is Peter Simeti of Alterna Comics, and we're going to be talking about cryptids and monsters and lots of fun stuff and a campaign that Pete has up and running right now. So, welcome, Pete.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for
It's
having
going
me.
great. Hey, it's good to have you here. It's always a pleasure to have a monster lover on my show.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be on here talking to you, Graham. It's always a blast.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about your inspirations. You know, the things that scare you at night.
Oh boy, do we really want to go down that deep, dark alley?
Let's keep it to not the real life scary stuff. Were you a monster kid, Pete?
Yeah. I've always loved anything that was like the paranormal, supernatural, unexplained, unknown. You know, it seemed impossible, but yet somehow was possible because there's so many people talking about it and giving their experiences and their eyewitness testimony or whatever.
Right.
I was always fascinated by that as a kid. I think it kind of went hand in hand with my love of comics. You know, all these things that made the impossible seem possible.
That's great. Did you read monster magazines or any of that true stuff like Bigfoot stuff? You know,
I was always reading the Time Life stuff, like those big hardcover books, and then sometimes they'd have like smaller series. I forget exactly what the name of it is, but I always be taking stuff about Bigfoots and pyramids and aliens and Bermuda Triangle and Loch Ness Monster. I mean, anything I could get my hands on that just seemed strange, and of course anything that had to do with space, the cosmos, the universe, learning about the
UFOs
planets and UFOs. Yeah, totally. So I was really into a lot of that stuff as a kid, and even the shows that were on, like Sightings in the 90s. I loved that show, even though it scared the hell out of me. You know, anytime, and the thing that was the worst was like Unsolved Mysteries. Anytime they'd put like a drawing up too of the alien or whatever it is,
right?
And not the grays were creepy, but it would creep me out more when it was like these humanoid type aliens, which just kind of look like a really bad drawing of a human being, but like the eyes wouldn't really be like spatially as far apart as they normally would. You know, either bigger or smaller than normally you would see. The nose would be like tiny, maybe like a slit type of, you know,
Big
nostrils.
head.
Yeah, bigger head, you know, the proportion between the nose and the mouth was like a little too long. Like all these little features that were just like off a little bit. Just look like a bad drawing, but it would creep me the hell out of me.
Yeah,
Because,
long
you know,
limbs
as a
with
kid.
long skinny arms and legs.
Yeah, all of that stuff just
Yeah.
wigged me out as a kid.
Now let me ask you this: do you believe in any of that stuff? I mean, we all want to believe in that.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? You do. So,
Oh, yeah.
Do you believe in that there is a creature, Bigfoot, or something like that?
There's something out there. There's something out there. Now, I don't believe in every single encounter or every single photo or video or whatever.
Right.
In fact, I don't believe in most of them.
Right.
A lot of the reports, some of them sound really, really convincing. And then what's more convincing than the footage, which is, you know, usually dark and grainy and blurry and whatever, is usually the audio that people will pick up is really, really intense and weird. But I look back more throughout all of history in terms of there's so much documentation about people citing something, talking about something. It's all over the world, all these various creatures, all these various things. And it's not just like a modern past 50-year occurrence or something like that. And that to me is more compelling than anything. Something's out there. I don't know what exactly it is, and I don't just mean like Bigfoot or whatever. It could be there's so many different things that are out there that we just don't know of. As far as cryptids go, I always refer to even some of the real stories of things that were supposed to be cryptids that eventually were discovered and documented as species. You got like the giant panda, you got the mountain gorilla, the kangaroo, the platypus, the Komodo dragon. There's a whole bunch of them. So there's a lot of really strange and unusual things out there. And
Yeah.
then if we talk about even what's in the water and the ocean, Lord knows what's in the ocean at this point. There's all kinds
Oh,
of crazy things. They
yeah.
don't even know. I think they know what more of the surface of the moon, they said, than
Yeah.
actually what's in the oceans.
Yeah, that's very
So,
true. Hey, True Believer, thank you for that $2 super chat. Project Blue Book, love that show.
are you talking about the one from a couple of years ago? That it
Maybe.
was a solid show. If you're talking about that one, it was on I believe it was on History Channel. With the dude from Game of Thrones was in that.
Mm.
It was an interesting show. They took a lot of liberties with a lot of cases.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I started watching that for now. He says back in the 80s. It was a show from back in the
Okay.
80s.
Oh,
Do you
all right.
remember In Search of with Leonard
Oh
Nimoy?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a staple on TV back in the I guess it was the 70s,
Yeah.
late 70s. I used to watch
Uh,
that one all the time.
I've now I didn't see it in real time. I wish I could have, but I saw all of them on YouTube. It's a great thing. You ever heard of YouTube?
It's familiar. I've got to explore it more.
Yeah. It's new. I think it's going to catch on eventually.
Hey, you speaking of Bigfoot, I don't know. I'm sure you've seen the enhanced HD version of that famous, the famous video of the Bigfoot walking across.
Oh, the Patterson Gimlin film, that one? You're
Yes.
talking about that? Yeah.
Have you seen that thing? It's been enhanced and focused in on, and all the motion and stuff has been taken out of it. And now I'll be the first to tell you I'm a doubting Thomas. I don't believe in a lot of this stuff. But that video proved to me it wasn't a person in a suit.
Yeah. What about it specifically?
Well, there'd be no reason to put breasts on it. And there was no with like a gorilla suit or something like that. As soon as it moves and stuff, because it's not skin tight on the wearer. There's always folds and movements, and it was clear that this fur and fat was real, and the breast moved in a very natural way. Not
Yeah.
like plastic things on a suit. So that one really raised my antenna.
Yeah, that's
as
the
to-
thing is, if it's a suit, there's all kinds of stories about that, and a lot of the stories don't make sense.
Mhm.
One thing that's really strange about it, I forget one of them, the one that passed away a couple of years after it had cancer. There's all kinds of reports of people who had Bigfoot sightings and other various sorts of things getting cancer. That there's radiation that surrounds those areas. There's radiation that's being emitted off of these things. Whether or not you want to say that there's some kind of interdimensionality at play or whatever it is that people want to attribute to it, there's some kind of weird frequency involved with a lot of it, because that's even an explanation for why they say that you can't really properly film them a lot of the time, depending on how close you get, because it really disrupts the field with the electromagnetic field there. So it's strange to me that one of them, and I wonder if that was the one that was closer to the alleged Bigfoot, and maybe that's why they ended up getting cancer and dying within a couple of years of it. But if it's
So
a
are
suit,
you saying that the environment that the Bigfoot is living in has some electromagnetic or radiation, or the
yeah,
animal
there's
itself is emitting?
kind of both. Kind of both.
Mm,
The same thing that happens too with people who have been, they claim to be abducted by aliens or whatever. In some
mhm,
cases, no, there's no reports of that. And then in some cases, there's reports of stuff that's around their car.
mhm.
There's you're picking up different readings. And there's been a lot of investigations into that stuff. Now, the thing with that, with going back to the Patterson Gimlin film, it really seems strange because of the fact that if it is a suit, if it is a forgery, man, that's a hell of a suit. It's far more advanced than what they had in Hollywood at the time,
Exactly.
and and it's and people go, well, why haven't they caught one in the same capacity ever before in
Mhm.
footage like that? And the thing is, who's to say that they didn't? Who's to say that as soon as someone talks about that or shows it or whatever it is,
Mhm.
brings it to the authorities, there's a ton of people within the parks departments who've reported a lot of different things, and they
Mhm.
usually get silenced about it. So if you go down the whole rabbit hole of Sasquatch reportings or cryptid reportings, as far as that goes, even if you don't think any of this stuff is mysterious in any kind of paranormal capacity, there's something going on that there's been a lot of time, energy, and money devoted to whatever it is, whether that's cryptids, aliens, whatever, any topic you want to talk about. There's a lot of attention driven towards it. So if it's not legitimate, which it very well could be, it could not be legitimate, all of it. It could be something that's a cover-up for something else. If it is a cover-up for something else, what the hell is that about? What is that? So no matter what's going on, there's weirdness occurring. That's for sure.
Well, why do you think that there's never been a body or skeletal remains or anything like that for a creature like this? I mean, we've strip cut so much forest that would have been a habitat for these things. You would think that in digging up all that ground and everything, you would find bones or some type. We're finding bones from dinosaurs, so you'd think we'd find some bones.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've found bones from people that are allegedly 8 to 9 feet tall. The Smithsonian kind of confiscates those, and the Smithsonian's just like a government institution setting up as a guise of a historical society. But so it's one of those things where if they do find something, chances are that that's the thing is the cover up. Why would there be a cover up? What are they trying to prove or disprove? What are they? And it makes me think, is there a link that potentially shows that these beings are outside of what we would consider to be the norm? Are these things are they aliens? Are they a missing link that was established not in terms of our genetic line, but maybe another kind of species? So there's all kinds of different things that could lead to whatever would go against the established paradigm in academia. And once you go down to that and say, you want to question the academic narrative that's been established, I mean, man, that's like the equivalent of questioning the church during the time of the Spanish Inquisition, with the way things are nowadays. So there's a lot of reason to cover up and eschew all kinds of evidence or confiscate it, and then no, we'll take care of it, and then that's it. It doesn't get reported, and anyone that does talk about it, that's the thing that's always strange with this kind of thing, is anyone that does talk about it in any kind of capacity scientifically that wants to really research it, they usually get their whole career or life ruined. So it's interesting to see that people on the fringes are doing all kinds of different things, but at the same time, man, there's a lot more questions than answers, that's for sure.
Well, I think that in today's society, with the internet and everybody owning a phone, at some point, if these things are real, some camper is going to be out there and he's going to get a shot, and it's going straight up on TikTok. It's just if they're real, that's bound to happen.
Enter AI. There's a big reason I think we're seeing a lot of AI in terms of video footage capability, picture capability, deep fakes all over the place.
Yeah, well, then there's that too. Yeah.
So talk about muddying the water more than ever before. Now, it was already, you couldn't really trust pictures and video and whatnot, but now it's really turning into, am I even here right now talking to you? Are you even you? Am I me? I don't know.
I'm at the bar up the road. This is my AI version. I'm not going to let this show get in the way of my drinking.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm the Bigfoot. Maybe you're a Bigfoot. I don't know.
Hey. I'm a size 9. I'm not a Bigfoot.
So once you put that into the narrative, and you really get people questioning what they're seeing, and then you could actually really just put actual evidence out in the,
Yeah.
And it's just some kind of AI, just some kind of crazy thing.
That's a really great point, because in the past, all the photographs or the videotapes or film captures of any of these things are always so grainy or so far away, and it's like, this is bullshit, this is a fake. Now it's the opposite. It can be so clear and so 4K definition and everything, but we see that in movies. We see, characters with tentacles on their face that look so completely real, like in Pirates of the Caribbean. They can make anything happen. So now you're doubting the reality of even stuff that looks so clear.
Yeah.
You're thinking, oh, this is deep fake, or this is AI, or this is some type of special effect. So yeah, you're right.
Absolutely.
That does muddy up the water. Let's move over to UFOs,
Okay.
because this one always fascinated me. Here's where I stand on UFOs. Obviously, they're just unidentified flying objects. It's as simple as that. Are there aliens out there in outer space? Is the question. The
Oh,
answer
totally.
for me is yes, absolutely. Our universe, our galaxy is so big, but then there's billions of galaxies out there. And in every galaxy, there's billions of stars, and around those stars are planets revolving and all that kind of stuff. The odds that this one little marble out there is all there is that contains life is ludicrous. It's just not possible. Now, having said that, everything is so damn far away. We're talking hundreds of thousands of light years, if you could even travel that fast.
Yeah, that's the thing is if you could travel at speed of light, it's still going real slow.
Yeah, it's still going to take you forever unless there's, other shortcuts, wormholes, or, breaks in space and time itself that you can, basically, the whole thing about, folding up a piece of paper, to close space so that you can go through. It's like quantum physics. All that to say, I don't believe that aliens have been here, because if they had to travel that far, they're certainly not going to be making crop circles in some freaking farm in Kansas. They'd be coming to see centers of intelligence, because obviously they have technology and stuff way beyond our means of transport and stuff like that. So if they came here and found this, whether it's because of radio waves they've picked up and they found us here, I just don't believe that they would come all that way just to make a crop circle, or to pick up some Yahoo and do experiments on them.
No, why? Well, okay, so a lot of that, there's a lot of theory in terms of the abductions, the mutilations, all kinds of different things. That's a lot of government stuff, and not even like government really, but like black budget level of. There's layers of secrecy to it that don't add up. There's been people that have kind of come out over the years and kind of hinted at certain things. It's hard to trust the information. So I'm just kind of giving the report in terms of what's been talked about. As far as how I feel about it, I think there's a lot to be said with some of it, because some of it does follow a certain pattern and it doesn't really make much sense in terms of how it goes down. And then there's other parts of it that are completely different, that have nothing to do with probing or terrorizing citizens or anything like that. A lot of it has to do even sometimes with healing people, coming along and healing people in terms of some kind of a strange medical capacity, like giving someone their hearing back or curing their cancer, or someone who couldn't have a child now can have a child. So there's a lot of documented reports of that. So again, it's really strange. There's a lot of information all over the place, but I'd say of all of it, maybe 10% of it really can't be explained in any capacity at all. And of that 10%, now you're talking about tens of thousands of cases over the course of however long you want to go back. So there's a lot of cases that really can't be solidly explained by anybody. Now the thing with crop circles and stuff like that, and a lot of the other stuff that goes on that's weird. We were talking about the ocean before. Now the ocean. There's a lot of people that talk about USOs, which is unidentified submerged objects. Sorry. So those are things that exist within the water, similar to the same kind of capacity in terms of what would exist in space. Now, a UFO doesn't have to be alien. Most UFOs are not alien. Most UFOs, if anything, are just things that we can't properly identify because they're, again, usually military aircraft of some kind, or you can't actually identify whatever it is, and then that's that. But of those instances, there are still a lot of different things that are not explainable in terms of that capacity. So whether or not it's, again, it's some kind of unreleased military project or whatever it may be, the thing that if you keep tracing it back long enough, you keep discovering weird, inexplicable leaps forward in technology that make no sense. And we've seen a lot of that occur, which is oddly enough, we've seen a lot of that occur since the Roswell crash in 47. There's been a lot of inexplainable leaps forward in technology. Now, if you're thinking back that maybe 80 years, 80 years then prior to Roswell, you're talking about the 1860s. So 1860s to 1940s, there's a huge amount of time where you're not seeing anything close to the same leap forward in technology. You're seeing so many leaps forward in technology from the late 40s to now. And it's, if you really go back and you take apart decade upon decade, it's insane, the stuff that goes on. Now, if you look forward, if you look even further back in time, in terms of technology, in terms of what has been going on, you get so far back enough, eventually you start going, they were doing things in ancient civilizations that we still can't replicate to today. So at some point in time, they had technology that was so advanced that we couldn't understand why they were able to do the things that they did and manipulate matter the way that they did. The whole thing is strange, to say the least. But it's interesting to see that there's a lot of technology that we have today that still can't accomplish some of the things that were done back then. And if it can accomplish it, they're not trying to even test the waters to see if it's capable. I know there's a lot of talk about UFOs and aliens and if they're here, if they've always been here, if they're still here, all that kind of stuff. If there are aliens in the universe and they've been here, chances are they're still here. Whatever it is still here, and it's been like that for a long time. Some people wonder, well, why would they even bother with this kind of a planet, or why do they crash? So think about the fact that, okay, if someone 300 years ago was like, wow, you have planes now, and you have cars, and you have all this like amazing technology, that must mean that you're all so proficient with it that none of you would ever crash. None of you would ever have an accident. Nothing would ever go wrong. Yet, meanwhile, how many car accidents happen? How many airplane crashes happen? You know, so it's the same kind of thing that you could say, well, even though this race is so strong, well, you could have the same thing. These are alleged organic beings of some kind. If they were to have some kind of human error, then that could, some kind of organic error that could occur. But what I really think a lot of the stuff that's happened is, if there is a way to travel through some kind of a portal, let's say, a wormhole, most likely they're not going to send something organic. They're sending something mechanical, or at least something that's cyborgish, bioorganic, you know? And that could explain why these beings could go through various things in terms of physics that normal living entities could not survive. So there's all kinds of different theories. It's fun to play around with it. It's fun to use them as a storyteller. It's all theory. I don't know what's concrete, obviously. I take in all of it, and I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. You know, that part, oh, that's fascinating, but I don't think that's possible. Right. And who the hell knows? Because again, if we go back like 200 or 300 years, you show them your smartphone, they're gonna think you're some kind of wizard or god or worse. So it's, you know, it's interesting to contemplate it, but it's I think it's hard to find. I'm of the mind where I don't have a definite answer for any of it. I'm open to hearing all about it and learning as much as I can about what people have to talk about on the subject.
Now, Paul Taylor brings up a point I was going to mention too, is that you know, thousands of years before Christ, you know, we had these architects building temples and pyramids. We still don't know how they did that kind of stuff. I've been to the pyramids in Mexico City. They had running water. They had mathematics, and they had astronomy, so that they could build these temples so that the sun hit light and cast shadow at certain times of day and all this kind of stuff. Very, very advanced. And then, you know, they ended up getting killed off by other warring tribes. The conquistadors came in and blah, blah, blah. But that knowledge, typically you pass on that kind of stuff But as Paul mentions here, there's so many things that have happened because of wars and things where information has been lost, like the library at Alexandria. It's been said that set the human race back 1,000 years, when the library at
Oh yeah,
Alexandria burned. A
if
thousand years.
if not even longer, depending.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows what was in there about how the Egyptians built those pyramids, how they moved those stones and brought them up. Same
Or
thing with
even who
the
built them
Mexicans.
before.
Hmm?
Even who built them before. Because there's a lot of texts that have been discovered that point to the fact that a lot of those things in Egyptian society, they're like, oh, these were already here. And you can even take an observation of like the Sphinx. The Sphinx looks like something that was subtractive carving in terms of there was something here already on the head, and then we made it smaller. We turned it into something else. So there's a lot of things there that don't make a whole lot of sense. So it's very strange in terms of the knowledge that's been lost, but
Hmm.
yeah, I'm really wondering exactly how much did we truly lose. And there's been a lot of wars, and we even see it now in modern times, a lot of wars that are started as distractions or as
Hmm.
plays to destroy or get something
Hmm.
in the midst of the turmoil. While
Right.
the whole war is going on, we say it's for this reason, and it's really not for that reason.
Hmm.
And then they go in there, they have a group of people, and they extract what they need to take out. And we've seen that happen over the past 20, 30 years. Uh, there's so much stuff that's been going on within the course of history regarding knowledge and secrecy and trying to take it away from the many to keep it powerful among the few.
Hmm.
That's just as old as humanity. So what bigger of a secret to keep than knowing that you have all of these incredible pieces of information regarding lost technology, regarding
Hmm.
something that was here before.
Fritzy Schnitzel says, doesn't the Fermi paradox suggest that by the time an intelligent life form could get a ship to visit us, that their sun and all life in their solar system would have expired by them? Have you ever heard that? The Fermi paradox?
I've heard of it, but I'm gonna need a refresher. If anyone
I've
does
never
know how
heard of
to
it. That's the
properly
first time I'm
explain it.
seeing it. But it's very interesting.
Yeah. And I see Paul put, didn't Napoleon's troops shoot off the Sphinx's nose? No, that's just a legend, a myth. That didn't actually happen.
No?
Yeah, there's no accounts of that actually occurred.
Hmm. I do know one thing is that the lines and the erosion on the Sphinx and the pyramids is not sand, wind and sand. It's water erosion.
Yeah. Yeah, you can even look at it. And it
Hmm.
doesn't look anything like what wind erosion would do.
Right.
So that's them dating it further
Hmm.
into like the antediluvian period. You're talking then about like 25,000 years old for the Sphinx, which is,
Well, it tells you
to
what
get,
that area was like, even during the
yeah.
Egyptian times.
Oh, totally.
During the ancient Egyptian times, that was a fertile valley, if you will,
They changed
with
that climate
water.
with all those cars they were driving.
Well, the spaceships, they were blowing out. They're all carbon-based spaceships.
That's a good point too, right? Who knows, right?
Maybe
Even
they're terraforming. They live in a
there,
low
yeah.
oxygen, high carbon monoxide world.
There's some that say that maybe even right now that's a goal in terms of terraforming the Earth to get like that time period where the temperature was closer to like the Pleistocene era, which is
Hmm.
not good for
Not good for
living
us.
for living beings. Not good for humans at all.
Yeah.
So why concentrate on getting that? Now, the best thing we could hope for is that it's all just a money laundering scheme and has nothing to do with anything whatsoever. It's just about, getting money and funneling
Yeah.
it to whoever. The worst thing is that it actually is like eco-terrorism essentially on a massive scale that is going to eventually push a large widespread loss of life, which is, let's just hope that never happens. But there's all kinds of different things in terms of civilizations, in terms of their cultures, their histories. Every single culture explains beings from the sky. Beings from the sky came. And almost in every single instance, the beings from the sky were good. Beings from the ground were bad. Beings from below are bad. So it's even on that level. We look at that and we've been told those are myths. That's metaphor. That's figurative. These aren't real things. These are just stories. People just made them up. They're campfire stories. It's very strange how you'll get cultures all across the world that couldn't have possibly had anything connected with each other, coming up with the same kinds of stories for how they arrived. All these people arrived here. So it's even strange looking at it like that. No one's talking about, and there's no culture that talks about how you go back and far enough and they say their creation story was that dude who kind of looks like a monkey, that dude, he mated with this other chick that looks like a monkey too, and then they had a human. There's no stories of that. The closest you're even going to get is like Noah and talking about how he was the first to not have like webbed fingers, which even that, webbed fingers? No, so you talk about like Atlantis, you talk about all these sunken cities. There's hundreds of them across the planet, if not more than that. And even that is strange. So there's so much history that has nothing to do with paranormal or supernatural or anything that's made up. There's so much of it that's there and has been documented through humanity's evolution. But even if you go and talk about the evolution of humanity, it's like we're around like 300,000, maybe 400,000 years in terms of what it looks like and for modern anatomically correct human beings. And it just kind of turns into like, what's before that? There's almost almost nothing. There's huge gaps in the fossil record that make no sense. And then the evolution of humanity is so fast. Like we should have been around for like 50 million, 60 million years as anatomically correct humans to even come close to the evolution, even physiology-wise, as opposed to even biologically or mentally. So the fact that we came along so quickly, that reeks of someone else came along and was like, something happened here. And whether you want to say that someone else was aliens or God or whoever else it may be, something came along and did something to the genetic code of human beings. Because there's no other being on this entire planet that's similar to us in any kind of capacity.
Right. And there's a lot of still called the theory of evolution. There's a book by a microbiologist called Darwin's Black Box. And he talks about that the genetic, the so-called missing link makes it sound like, oh, well, you're just missing this one little puzzle piece.
Yeah.
1,000-piece puzzle. Well, that to put it in perspective from a genetic point of view, he says that missing link is the distance of the Grand Canyon. That's how far apart that link is to link humans to apes.
Yeah.
And they don't really do that in school. They just tell you, this is how it is. We've evolved from apes and blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot more questions to that.
Chances are even Darwin would be arguing against what's been turned into his theory. Even within his theory, he talks about how if you can even find one instance where this doesn't seem to make any sense, then this whole theory is not correct. We have to keep continuing to find. And there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it out there that doesn't make any sense. It only can be applied to certain aspects of certain things. You can see evolution in terms of like, here's your offspring, and then they share some traits of the parents. Now you can see that, and that would take place over time, whatever it may be. Now, in terms of the evolution playing out, where and even as a kid, I'd be like, so like if one giraffe really tried hard to stretch its head to get the leaves, it would have kids with longer necks, and then they would keep stretching more, and so it'd be like, okay, so if you develop physical traits or whatever during your course of time, your DNA would then carry that on. If that is going to be considered to be true, then we have to actually research that further into defining, well, when certain parents, let's say the father because the mother gets born with whatever she's going to have in terms of carrying on her genetic code, but the father is constantly renewing genetic code to pass on. So if a father all of a sudden develops a skill and has a certain child at that point in time, as opposed to the previous children that were had before that skill was developed. Now, does that child afterwards, do they have a proclivity towards that skill and the other child does not? I would love to see research towards that. I would love to see even just observational research among people. If you have kids out there and you are an athlete, or you have artistic ability, or you have learned something, and you had kids at a certain point in time where you did not acquire those skills, you did not learn those, and specifically talking about the father doing that, would that then mean that you passed on those traits? Do you notice if your child has those traits or not, or are we talking about something deeper within the genetic code?
But
So,
skills are learned. There's proclivities. Like
yeah,
if you're an athletic person, you could develop good skills at throwing a baseball or playing football, but not necessarily unless you hone those skills. You might be naturally athletic, have good balance and all that kind of stuff. You can juggle and whatever, but
yeah.
you wouldn't necessarily be a good football player unless you trained for that,
But
per
somewhere
se.
at some point in time, whether it was the epigenetics taking place, and then that was kind of not the core genetic code, but the genetic code that was it's through acquired learning of various skills, then those skills get passed down. Like how far can you go back? If anything, I think there's a lot of stuff going on right now with like Ancestry.com and 23andMe and all these. Like, there's a very strange thing in terms of genetic espionage on people. And I think they're trying to find something. I think they're trying to find people who may have a connection to something further under the guise instead of, don't you want to find out who you might have been related to or whatever it may be? But instead looking at what is possibly the most valuable piece of information on the planet, which is human DNA. So there's a lot of stuff there that's rife for examination. And it's funny because in King Cryptid, I'm going to get into a lot of that, because there's the New England Cryptid Research Organization, and at the core of what they're doing, it has something to do with that. They're obsessed with genetic manipulation, not just with cryptids, but of all kinds of life forms. So it's fun with storytelling. It's fun with that kind of thing to explore it. But man, I feel like we're never really going to know. We're never really going to know. And there's fun that we can have with that in a storytelling capacity. But at the same time, man, there's just so much out there that is absolutely mind-boggling.
Well, since you brought up King Cryptid, let's take a look at your website here. You want to
Yeah,
talk
so
about?
this is the current campaign. We ended it last night. We're still in demand though, so now we're in that phase. We reached the last stretch goal, and that stretch goal unlocked the King Cryptid foil card. So that's Alterna foil number 7, and that campaign was for 4 new comics, and those are for $9. So if you guys are interested, go pick that up, check that out. The King Cryptid campaign, and this campaign too, is also on Indiegogo. So we've got them on the Alterna site, and we also have them on Indiegogo. And the King
Oh, okay.
Cryptid campaign, that also passed a milestone yesterday. So the overall campaign between both sites passed the $34,000 mark yesterday.
Nice.
So thank you guys so much. Yeah, we're 35 backers away from 1,000. So just a stone throw away from unlocking the next backer bonus goal, which is a bookmark, a King Cryptid bookmark for all physical perk backers. And we crossed the 14,000 mark on the Indiegogo as well. So thank you guys for your support on this. And it was great doing the first 4 issues. And this is going to be for issues 5 to 9. And it's just having, yeah, it's just about having a lot of fun with the world, the characters, and building on all of that from issue to issue. It's a lot like old school comics.
Covers 5 through 9 right here.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Are all these books done?
Well, they're, I'd say 60% done, most of them.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that's
so
quite a
the
bit
art
for,
and
when you're
yeah.
crowdfunding.
Yeah. So right now we're going to be aiming for fulfillment around June, July of this year, and that'll be for issues 5 to 9.
Okay. And look at this. Here's New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Where are you on here?
I'm like in southern New Hampshire.
You're down here?
I'm about like I'm about like a half hour or so north of Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. How far are you
Yeah,
from Plymouth?
I'd say maybe an hour and a half.
Hour and a half? Okay.
Yeah.
My daughter went to college there at Plymouth State.
Wow. Small world.
Yeah, and now she lives there. She's not
Oh,
living
no
in
way.
Plymouth. She lives a little bit further north,
Ah,
in oh, I can't remember the name of the town. Small little town.
so she's
Yeah, she
kind of
moved
closer
there.
to like Laconia over there.
I think so. I think so.
Because like
I got
Lincoln, Franconia, like those are on the map over there. We got a couple issues that take place in those regions, but yeah,
okay.
like Laconia is kind of over there around Plymouth.
Ah, okay, that's cool. So all
Yeah.
your stuff is taking place. This is where these stories are taking place.
For right now, yeah, predominantly that's where the King Cryptid series centers. Really around the White Mountain region. That's where his cave lair is. But we have
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of
okay.
issues that are around the area. Not any in Maine just yet, but we will get to Maine. We've had issue number 1 took place in Ossipee, New Hampshire. Issue number 2 takes place in the White Mountains and King Cryptid's cave lair. Issue
Okay.
3 takes place in Lincoln, New Hampshire, and issue 4 took place at Hockomock Swamp in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. But issue 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, those are all predominantly, again, like we got the little issue map with everything pointing to it. And
Yeah, look at that.
so,
Isn't
yeah,
that cool?
I can't wait to do like an actual full-fledged map one day when we get to maybe like 30 or 40 characters, and I'll have like the cryptid drawings on
Right?
the certain cities and treat it like it's a tourist destination of like, this is where you could go to see this cryptid.
Yeah, and you should set up stands and stuff in those areas.
Yeah,
Have some teenagers man them and sell comics.
absolutely. I want to see if I can manifest cryptid sightings from King Cryptid characters in the New England region. Give me a couple of years. I think we could do it.
That's awesome. So let's see. Okay, this is King Cryptid 9. Okay. Now, who are your artists on these books?
So okay, so the campaign kind of does a countdown. So this is issue 9. We
Hmm.
got Kier Covington doing the art with Christian Rossi on colors. Then issue 8, we got Alex Jovich, and he's also the artist on issue 3. We got issue 7 is a black and white issue. It's Nick Hunter. Nick Hunter
Hmm.
also did the black and white issue 2 from last year's campaign. And he's also the artist on issue 5, and he's coloring that one as well. Issue 6, we got Frankie B. Washington. That one's also going to be a black and white issue. It's got kind of like that zip-a-tone thing. Frankie
Hmm.
wanted to do that on this issue.
Are
Uh,
these all self-contained stories? Because you have different artists on
yeah.
each book, so I was just wondering if they were self-contained with
Yeah,
maybe a
so they're
thread of a storyline.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're complete stories, but they all are tied together. There's always a thread of a storyline. The continuity matters. There's certain references that I'll put like an editor's note. So if
Hmm.
there's something that's referenced that happened previously, it'll go back. It's very much old school classic comics in terms of that kind of episodic ongoing storytelling.
And who did number 5?
Number 5 is Nick Hunter again.
Okay, that's a really nice looking splash page there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so lucky to work with these guys. These guys are so talented. They're fantastic, and it's been phenomenal working with them. And then here's issue 4 from last year. This is Kier Covington with Christian Rossi's colors.
Hmm.
Issue 3 is Alex Jovich. Issue 3 and 8 are the closest thing right now. It's like a solid story arc that we have. It'll kind of bounce around a couple issues because then it'll connect again for 11.
Oh,
So
3, 8, and 11.
3, 8, and 11, yeah.
Okay.
And then issue 2, again, that's Nick Hunter.
Hmm.
And he's so good with his line work. The biggest reason with that issue in particular being black and white was that it takes place on the night of a new moon. King
Hmm.
Cryptid's powers are affected by the phases of the moon.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, with this being on the night of a new moon and largely taking place in the cave, it just made sense where there's only one real strong light source in the cave for Nick to just go black and white with it instead of having a splash of color here and there. He's
Yeah,
got such
that's cool.
strong line work, yeah. And then issue 1, Christian Rossi, through and through.
Okay. So you have a package here where you can get all caught up, where you could buy all 9 of them, the catch-up tier.
That's 200 something pages of story for $25. You can't
Man,
beat
that's
that.
a deal.
Yeah. And I could have kind of took, just one issue and like issue 1. I could have did like a 3 or a 4 issue miniseries on that and really drag the story out, but I I didn't need to do that. And by not doing that and kind of creating this tighter pace, more condensed story, it enabled me to have a second issue and have other characters and a different story and a third and a fourth and so on and so forth. So that's why I really want to keep the pacing constantly moving, getting the character development in there, the world building, introducing new characters, new scenarios, new settings and situations. Because eventually, even though the series mostly does take place in New England, we're going to start leaving the New England region. And then sometimes we'll even have an issue or two that takes place off the planet. So there's a lot of different things that occur within the realm of this series. Yeah.
So this is your type script?
Yes. So if someone wants to see the script I'm giving to the artists, there's some spoilers in there for setups of stories later on. So reader beware. But you'll see the script that I give to the artist, and you might actually be shocked. I've talked about this before, but whoever gets the script might be shocked that they don't really see much of a technical traditional script. It's a lot more of like a scene breakdown, describing page by page, me telling the story to the artist. Sometimes I'll emphasize this is a splash page or a line of dialogue where I really want to make sure we get the emotion and we get the proper punchline after the setup. But most of the pages are just scene breakdown. And then I give it to the artist, and then they end up laying it out. They thumbnail it, they get it back to me for approval, they go through pencils, again, do the approval process, and so on and so forth. So this way we can really kind of have a collaborative effect. But there's things that I don't want to bog them down with dialogue or narration or whatever it may be and hinder their vision for how the art is going to play out, because they're thinking, I got to have all this room for this crappy dialogue Pete wants to put here. So instead, I'll go in there and edit, because I'm lettering too. So I'll go in there afterwards. I have an idea of how everything's going to be playing out and what kind of stuff is going to get said. But then I'll get the art back, and I'll make sure to make adjustments as I'm lettering. So that's a really fun part for me, because there's moments where the artist does such a fantastic job describing a scene in a certain way visually that I don't have to do really any heavy lifting at all. With the writing, I could just kind of kick back, or I can kind of juxtapose something else and make sure that another piece of information is being given while visually the art is relaying something else. So this way it kind of creates a full tandem effect.
True Believer, thank you for that $2 super chat. He's reminding everybody that you can't afford not to back it. And he also, for $5, he says, okay, hear me out. King Criptid survives Blood Realm and is transported back to Earth, but ends up on Monster Island before he finds his way back home.
I like that.
He might get stuck there, I mean, they're pretty good at keeping the monsters stuck on the island, but that's very cool. Well, thank you so much. I love when the fans, come up with their scenarios and stuff. There's some really fun and great ideas that come out, because everybody's creative in some manner,
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the thing that's so fun about this, is once you start having characters and stories that people are familiar with and they enjoy, it gets them, their imagination, their gears start turning. And whether or not we ever create any of that, it doesn't matter, because it's so much fun to just imagine the scenarios, and that's a big fun part of all this.
I had a guy show up at a convention one time cosplaying as Joe Frankenstein. That was the coolest thing. He was a young guy, right about the right age. He had the AC/DC shirt, the hoodie, and he had the Van shoes here with the checkered Van shoes and everything.
Yeah.
And he walked up, and I knew exactly who he was supposed to be. I was like, "Oh my God, you're the first guy I've ever seen as Joe Frankenstein." It was very cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. The only thing I ever had like that was a fan had read The Chair, and that book is a psychological horror death row thriller. And the dude comes up and he's dressed as the warden in the chair, which is kind of more like a creepy mad scientist type guy. And he's got like a syringe and he's got his creepy goggles on and the butcher apron. And he just comes up right from behind me and he's just like whispering in my ear. He says a line from the book. And I was like, oh my God, I'm screwed. And I turn around and the guy's in the full getup. It was amazing. But
That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
that was really cool. I can't wait till one day I see somebody 7'2", dressed up like King Cryptid. That'll
Right?
be great.
The Vespa guy with the $5 super chat, shipping on Alterna's site is really good deal. Backed the campaign and ordered a bunch of the older issues. Hail, gentlemen. Oh, excellent. Excellent. We're picking up some backers tonight. That's what we like
Fantastic.
to see.
Thank you, Vespa guy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, much appreciated. Tell your friends, comic guys always have friends that are comic guys too. So, make sure you tell all your friends about the books that you really enjoy, and get the word out because,
Absolutely.
that's what the cool thing about independence is. Independent comics is we're sort of underground and we're this private little club where you discover and find things the way you used to.
Yeah.
When comics were on the newsstand, you could accidentally find a comic, like, oh, Werewolf by Night, what's that? That sounds cool. Now you can't do that. You can't accidentally find comics. You have to seek them out. But I think in the indie scene, it's sort of like that. You can discover, if you're into the scene, you can discover and find new stuff to try.
Yeah, you definitely stumble upon things, and there's always hidden gems, and that's part of the fun too. And so yeah, anything with King Cryptid. If you guys enjoy the paranormal, the supernatural, horror, sci-fi, adventure, mystery, there's all kinds of that stuff within the series of King Cryptid. I'm putting everything that I love about comics and all that stuff into this series, and I think people are going to be surprised at how, I guess in some way, familiar this series feels to them. I've had a lot of readers for issues 1 to 4 talk about, I read these issues and I was shocked at just how much I really miss this style of storytelling. And I'm so glad to hear stuff like that. It means a lot, and being able to get these ideas out there and these stories and these characters, there's nothing like it when it resonates with people. So
Yeah.
thank you guys so much. I'm really glad you guys are enjoying this series. And so much more to come too, man.
Here's some larger images. Here's that splash page that I was complimenting before. It's got a nice feel to it.
Yeah, I love kind of setting it up with the captions and the third party narration of kind of framing the story. Ends a lot of the time like that too. But yeah, I love the putting in the title on the splash page and just getting a page that really draws you in. Makes you just instantly forget about anything else. And now, boom, here's the story. Let's go right into it.
Well, that's a nice cover.
Yeah, that's Preston Azevedo. So on the King Cryptid series, we do the back covers. You flip them over, and you get another cover. So on the back cover is Preston Azevedo for issue 6.
Oh, I see. That's 6, and here's the back. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a flip book, but it's a flip cover. So you'll get, instead of doing like a variant printing, we'll just put the cover right on the back cover.
That's cool. There's the Zipatone one.
Yep. And there's the Old Man of the Mountain, which is a New Hampshire landmark in Franconia. The face of it, not there really anymore. It fell probably about 15 or so years ago. But it's startling if you look it up. Old Man of the Mountain, New Hampshire. You'll see the striking profile in the mountains.
I think my daughter might have told me that about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so here he's a character within the King Cryptid world. He's kind of like the mentor to King Cryptid. He's been around a long time, something like 12,000 years old. So King Cryptid's old too. He's like 500 or so, but he's just a baby compared to the old man. So at times where King Cryptid will have flashbacks where King Cryptid sometimes would meet the old man during various points of time where he was really confused about where to go with life, and he would go and speak to him. And that's one particular instance right there in issue 6. Issue 7 is a full moon werewolf special. So there's a werewolf couple. They're cursed, and they were cursed a long time ago in the early 1800s. basically by this witch who was in love with the male of the two and cursed them as wolves to kind of spend the rest of their days forever together and forever apart. So on the night of a new moon, we have the male is a wolf. On the night of a full moon, the female is a wolf. At every other point in time, though, they are the opposite. So when one is a wolf, the other is a human. When one is a human, the other is a wolf. And they're always together. Some people have said it's kind of like Lady Hawk. In some capacity, yeah, in terms of the way that works. There's a lot of American Indian mythology throughout King Cryptid. And there's an old American Indian myth about essentially that thing of these two being cursed in that kind of capacity. So we see that play out with Wendy and William. They're cursed by the witch Tamira in the early 1800s in Dogtown Village, Massachusetts. And then we go back to present day and we'll see them as they're in Jackson, New Hampshire. So here's King Cryptid number 8. King Cryptid number 8, we see at the very end on the back cover, we see the Zeta Reticulans, we see the gray aliens. And they are the... well, I don't want to give away the issue, but they're responsible for a lot of different good and bad things throughout the course of the King Cryptid series. And King Cryptid's real name is Crowan. That was his name when he was a human being. That's one of the only things you can remember about being a human being is his name. So this alien in particular sees King Cryptid and goes, "Hello, Crowan. It's good to see you again." So it's one of those things where we give a little bit of a hint of what's to come based on that.
That's cool. I like that. I like that. Yeah, this is a great campaign. These are great books, guys. I want to suggest you take a look over here on this is the IMDb campaign, and this is in the description. And I didn't put the Alterna Comics site. You can go to alternacomics.com and get to this one. So you can use the link to go to the Indiegogo, or you could go to Alterna Comics here to check out this one here. So
absolutely, yeah, they're both up on either one. Wherever you guys want to back, whatever you prefer, go for it. Don't worry about where we prefer. If you like Indiegogo, go to Indiegogo. If you want to support directly on the Alterna site, go there too. That's what we got.
Absolutely. For. Yeah. Whatever works, you know.
Yeah. 100%.
Whatever works for you, you know. But yeah, Pete's putting out great comics, and the price is right. You can't beat it. Obviously, the knowledge and the passion is there. You heard us talking about it a little bit ago about, the man knows his stuff when it comes to cryptids and monsters and the supernatural and all that. So he's putting that into his stories, which is great. You know,
I tell you, it's really eerie though too, because sometimes I'll come up with something like Brugg the Swamp Monster. I came up with him in 2018, and I knew I wanted to eventually do a series like this, like a monster adventure series. But I came up with Brugg in 2018, and I just kind of sat on it for a while of like, okay, I want a swamp monster because I mean, why not? Right. And then I'm
Everybody
like, well, what?
Swamp monster.
Exactly. And then I'm like, well, what kind of swamps are there in New England? And, lo and behold, I'm doing research into it. Now, Brugg, what he's composed of is the essence and spirits and decomposed bodies of cryptids, failed cryptid experiments, among other things, and that gave life to him, essentially being this thing. Now, in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, in Hockomock Swamp, Hockomock in Algonquin means place where spirits dwell. And there's a very long storied paranormal history and actual history, too, of a lot of things that have occurred in that area. It's called the Bridgewater Triangle in that area. There's been so many weird things that have occurred. But Hockomock Swamp in particular is like this sacred Wampanoag swamp, this area, that they literally would treat it like a burial ground of sorts. So I was like, wow, I created this character to essentially be this thing that I wasn't aware that existed within the very region that I'm having this book set up. So there's a lot of weird serendipitous moments as I'm creating characters and stories that I'm finding tie into actual areas, locations, and history. It's trippy.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah,
that's fun stuff when you can dovetail that stuff together.
Yeah.
I got to do that with the Chenoo and with Alien Alamo too. Things that happened in real life form an aspect of a story, you know, and so then you can just, you know, make up shit as you need it to fill the holes in your story, you know. And that's where the fun and the creativity comes. You know, you get an inspiration from something, whether it's a American Indian legend or something that happened in the region that you're telling the story, but you can morph it or change it and manipulate it to tell the type of story you want to tell. And that's so fun, so much fun, and so cool.
Yeah, because the Chenoo, it's Wendigo, you know, so you get like this thing. It's just a different dialect, correct? Isn't it?
Yeah, it's from a different tribe.
Yeah.
But similar type of mythology about, you know, a man whose soul's corrupted and turns into this ice creature, you know, that eats hearts, the hearts of men to reclaim the warmth that he'll never know because he's, you know, this ice creature, you know. But there was never anything about, you know, him showing up in great storms, historical storms. That was an aspect I added because I wanted to use that as a cool thing. So like when these big storms come, people know that something's coming with it, you know.
Yeah,
kind of like the fog, you know. You remember that John Carpenter movie?
Oh,
when
totally.
The fog would come in and the ghosts were in the fog.
Yeah, I love that. It's the same thing that occurs too within. Well, I'm not going to give it away. I was going to say issue 5. We've got a White Mountain Yeti, and there's something that occurs within the scenario that arises. But I'll let people read it.
So there you go, guys. Go over to alternacomics.com and get issue 5 so you know what he's talking about.
It's a good one. It's a good one. And that's what I love, too, about the fact that in this day and age, you're able to kind of keep an ear to the ground when people are really enjoying certain characters, like in issue 1 in particular. They really love the Behemoth, and a lot of people want to see the Behemoth come back. So the Behemoth makes a cameo appearance at some point in time during the course of issues 5 to 9, and then will come back again in issue 13 next year. So that's going to be fun, bringing the Behemoth back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Fog is a sleeper Carpenter film, but it's one of my favorites, actually. Yeah, I can give or take or leave some Carpenter films, but the ones that really click, I really like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a classic.
You a fan of The Thing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Kurt Russell?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like it. I've done whole shows on this thing because I like it, but I don't love it. I like the original better, and I like the short story better too.
Well, isn't the Carpenter one closer to the short story?
It's closer in that the characters are all named properly, and that the creature itself is closer to what was represented in the short story as well. But where it falls is that the characters are much more likable in the book, whereas in Everybody's a Dick in Carpenter film. You know, I don't believe for 1 minute anybody is what they say they are. You know, what does Child do? We never see them doing anything. They're there for scientific research, and the first time we're introduced to them, they're playing ping pong in a rec room. We never see them doing scientific shit. You know, except the doctor when the alien comes about. So those are things that bug me because they've set it up so that I feel like these guys are a bunch of, you know, frat boys hanging out in the Arctic.
They almost seem like they're set up to die and someone somewhere else is observing them.
Yeah. But you know, the blood test with the hot thing that's in the book too, which is really cool. But like the original. The good guys win in the book. You know, they stop the creature.
Did you see the one that was I believe it was a continuation, the one that came out maybe 10 years ago? I don't know if it was that long ago, but
it was a prequel. It was what happened at the Norwegian station.
That's right.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm on the fence about if I should watch it or not. You think I should check it out?
I would. If you like the Carpenter one, I think you'll like it. There's, you know, it's one of those stories like you watch the Titanic, you know how it's going to end. Well, since this is the prequel, we know how this is going to end to a certain degree. whereas the thing opened up with the Norwegians chasing the dog.
Yeah, yeah.
So and then when Copper and McCready go back there, we see what had happened, and they try to piece the story together. In this one, you actually see the shit happen that causes all that stuff. So yeah,
Okay, I'll check it out.
books are good. I mean,
I'll check it out.
it's a good B movie, a modern day B movie. So yeah. Well, Pete, I want to thank you for coming on, and it was a really interesting discussion, I think, about the cryptids and mythology and all that kind of stuff that we can't prove is real. So that's always a fascinating conversation, particularly with somebody as well versed as you in it. I learned some things tonight, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. I got to have you back on my channel too. Talk about Monster Island and monsters in general. Continue, make a part 2 out of this conversation.
Why not? I'm in pimp mode. I got a project up and running, so I got to get on a lot of different shows. So that'd be great.
Right. Yeah, I'll have my people call your people.
There we go. Hey, chat, thanks again. You guys are the best, as always. Appreciate you supporting my guests when I have them on. And, of course, I appreciate you supporting my projects as well. The Return to Monster Island just hit 65,000 today. We're about 100 backers away, 110 backers away, something like that, from that magic 1,000 number. So
fantastic, man. That's
it's going
great.
along nicely. And I can't thank you guys enough. So I hope everybody has a great night. And Pete, I hope you have a great night. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you, man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Anytime.
All right, guys. We'll see ya.